Have you ever stopped and thought about what sections to include on your resume? Work experience, skills, interests, hobbies. There's so many things you can put on there. What should you put? In this video, we're gonna talk about what are the most important common sections that you would see on a resume, what are the extra ones, and when you might use those to help yourself stand out. Hey, I'm Dave Fano, founder and CEO at Teal, and I have personally reviewed thousands of resumes and helped thousands of people land jobs. And I'm deeply passionate about this topic, and I want to help everyone sort of hack the job search process. So with that, let's jump right into how we talk about resumes. So what you see here are generally the most common sections in resumes. Sure, I've seen all sorts of sections that are invented that that you would never see before, but I'd say generally these are the buckets they fall into. First is contact information, and we'll do separate videos that are deep dives into each of these, so I don't want to get too specific or hung up here, but contact information is the way the company gets in touch with you and can learn more about you. Target title is one that I feel pretty strongly about, is a good one to be there. I'd say it's like 50-50 on people thinking whether it should be there or not, but this is the one spot on your resume where you can project the title that you want, right? Because the past is the history. Those are only titles that you've had, and I'll talk about those in more detail later. This is where you can project the title that you want. And generally, if you're gonna customize one thing on your resume, it's just this. You can put in the title of the job you're applying to. So that's why I like target title. Professional summary, again, mixed advice here on whether you should include it. Generally, if you're early in your career, I'd say under 2 years of experience, you probably don't need it. I like it because it's a place for you to talk about your career in aggregate, talk about some of the aggregate metrics and successes across multiple jobs. So I'd say if you've got more than one job on your resume, I think it's helpful. If you've only had one job ever, then you probably don't need it. Then comes the work experience. Work experience is where we outline our general work experience. And this would be in reverse chronological order. And what that means is the job you had most recently, working backwards to the first job you ever had. And depending on your tenure and how long you've been working, what jobs you include or don't include, that's a topic for another video. But I'd say this is the most important section on a resume. It's where most people go right to and look at your work experience. Then comes your education. If you have the credentials, show them. It can't hurt. They take a little bit of space, and oftentimes, unfortunately, a lot of jobs require some form of higher ed, and they show the degree, so you got to show that you have it. Then certifications. I think here, if I could have like a mid-bold, I probably would. I would only add certifications if they help make the case for the job that I'm applying to. If I'm a career pivoter, if I'm a teacher who wants to become a data analyst and I took a data analytics course on Coursera, I probably want to put that, but don't just put every certificate you've ever had on a resume. It's probably not that helpful. Then come your skills. I'm a huge fan of a skills section. I've seen lots of different ways that the skills gets done. People might want to put them into categories: hard skills, soft skills, softwares, languages, all sorts of different things. I think ultimately having a nice condensed space on your resume that just outlines the skills you have, I think are really good. They're there for a number of reasons. One, it just gives me a high level view of everything I know. I'm not a fan of how well I know it. That's entirely subjective. I might think I'm a 3 out of 5, but compared to most people, I'm actually a 5 out of 5. So I don't generally recommend putting your level of experience with a skill or proficiency, just as many you can get on there that are relevant to the job. Don't just load it up with skills just to have a big section of skills. But I think skills are great. And then when someone goes back to search within their ATS for candidates and they use a skill like a software, who has applied that knows Tableau or Photoshop, you'll generally show up. And it's that simple. It's not some sort of fancy AI. It's just like literally the word they search for, I want it on my resume. So skills, I think, is a great place to do that. Then comes interest. Interest I don't think helps so much in terms of like searchability, but it does help a lot with connecting, and oftentimes it becomes an interview topic. So putting in a couple little things about you I think is helpful, but you don't have to go crazy here, especially if it's connected to the company. So if I'm applying to Spotify and one of my hobbies and interests is music, it probably makes sense to put it on there. If I'm applying to Shutterfly or SmugMug and I like photography, probably makes sense to put it on there. Now we're gonna get into more of the sections that tend to be used a little bit less. Ultimately, they're all there to help make the case for why you should be employed, but these also are gonna be at the end of your first page, possibly your second page. So I don't think they matter as much, but just wanted to talk through the ones that get used. Projects. If you're someone who ran your own business, did a ton of freelancing or consulting, a project section might be helpful for you to show how you did this. If you're a pivoter and you've built a portfolio of projects that weren't for a client, that might be helpful as a reason to put there. So that could be handy, but I think for most people, they don't need to put it. Then volunteering and leadership. This is where you would want to put any kind of participation in nonprofits, organizations, volunteer work. Things that I've seen on resumes from students are sororities, honor societies, fraternities, affinity groups. So that could be there, if you're part of local community efforts. And I wouldn't stuff it with volunteering. Just the fact that you volunteer, that's great. That makes you an awesome person, but may not help you land the job. Try to put in things that help you land the job. If you're a student, I think those things might help in terms of networking and building connections. Then comes awards and scholarships. I've seen that again a lot on folks that are coming straight into the workforce or recent graduates. That might be something you want to put in there. Or if you're someone who's had a lot of accolades in different parts of your career, that might be helpful to put there if it helps build your credibility and credentials for a particular domain. And then lastly is publications. This might be because you have a PhD, you did research work, you're published in a scholarly publication. All those things might help. Again, haven't seen it that much. Not that many of us have publications, but if you have them, that might be a section that you want to include them. So that's a high-level summary of all the possible sections you include. I want to be clear, I don't necessarily think you should use all of these. Unless you have a very good reason, you should stick to the basics, which are contact information. I really believe a target title helps you a ton. A professional summary if you've had more than one job in your career, work experience in reverse chronological order, your education, and a skills section. In my opinion, those are all you need on a resume. That makes a standard resume. That's what recruiters are looking for. No one's gonna think any different of that, and you're gonna be able to focus on the core content that gets you a nice, concise, and clear resume. If you have a need to add any of these other sections, because you really think it's going to help you stand out, or there's something about your career that's going to help you highlight these things, then these are some of the other sections that I've seen on resumes. And I really think sticking to what people have seen before is important because people can make the quick connection. These are the ones you could use. But like I said, I think the ones that I called out as the most common are the ones that should be on your resume, unless you've got a great reason to add the others. All right, so that's what you got. You shouldn't have to think about this anymore. Those are the sections. Good luck, and I hope you go land that job you love.